And welcome back to the Cooler Jets podcast for us, Ben Blessington and Michael Nania. Well, Michael, we've been talking about a few interviews we have lined up for this week. The first of which, a return guest, Thomas Morstead, back on the podcast. Very excited about this one because, Thomas, I'll be honest, we ended the last interview and I was like, all right, that went well. And then I just started kicking myself because I completely forgot that you were the guy who had the onside kick in the Super Bowl for the Saints, and I didn't talk about it. It's one of, I remember it as a kid. It's one of the best plays in Super Bowl history. And you're at the center of it, and we didn't even talk about it. So I guess we'll start there. First, I guess how you're doing. And then can you walk us through that moment, that whole, just the halftime deciding you're going to do the onside kick, the art of the onside kick, landing. It's your name will always be down in history as a part of one of the best plays in Super Bowl history.
Yeah, I'm doing great. That play was I was a rookie. I never kicked off in college, so that season was my first kicking off. We had our kicker at the time that got suspended, and we brought in an old player named John Carney who was kicking it straight still, but he couldn't kick it very far. So I kind of stepped up and told the coaches I could kick further than John, and they let me kick off, and I ended up getting really good in it. At it, and I think my third year I broke the NFL record for touchbacks. I was really, really a great kickoff guy early in my career. That was my rookie year, and going into that Super Bowl, Coach Payton was looking for ways to essentially steal a possession. Felt like that was something we needed to do to give ourselves the best chance to win. Excuse me, and they looked to do a fake punt at first, but they were very, very vanilla and conservative on their punt return team, so that wasn't a good look. And so we came up with this onside kick that actually, I think Olindo More had hit for the Saints in 2007 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we pulled that tape up, and John was like, "Hey, can you think you can hit this ball?" And so we worked on it a little bit. And I never believed we'd actually do it in the Super Bowl. I just thought it was kind of like we're going to be ready to do this, and we're going to be aggressive and kind of have that nature about it. But I didn't actually think we'd ever do it. And honestly, I was when Coach came in the locker room at halftime, and he walked right by my locker just in passing. It was like, "Hey, we're running ambush to start the second half." I don't think I've ever had like a heart palpitations or anything like that. But I was freaked the F out and immediately kind of started thinking about, there's a billion people watching this, and what if I screw up, and, what if it ruins our chance to win the game? And anyways, I got kind of rolling. And at some point I was like a psychologist for myself, just like talking myself through it. And I was just telling myself that if we, I was like, all right, I'm going to let it all out. I'm going to let every negative thing I could possibly, every negative outcome, every negative consequence, I'm going to just throw it all up. And I was pacing back and forth, and I looked like such a spaz because I don't take my helmet off at halftime. And so I'm just sitting in my locker, a rookie with his helmet on, strapped up for like 35 minutes, just panicked. And I started kind of pacing around the locker room, and I kept this picture of my coach up in my locker. His name was Frank Ann Sr. He had died the day after I got drafted, and he used to have this acronym ACDC, which basically the first A was for being more aggressive than your opponent, and his saying was the more aggressive team normally wins. And I thought, well, this is pretty effing aggressive. And I kind of relaxed. And then I thought, every time Coach called me to do this in practice the past 2 weeks, I've hit it just how I wanted. And all of a sudden I started feeling good about it. And I was like, man, if we get this, we're going to win this game. And so anyways, I went out to start warming up. And the worst thing about hitting that kick is you can't practice it before you hit it. So every day in practice, Coach would just call me up out of the blue to hit it cold because that's how it's going to be in the game. And so I'm out there just hammering kickoffs through the back of the end zone. I've got so much adrenaline. I'm like trying to get the energy out. And so we go over, we huddle up, and John Carney was now not kicking for us. They transitioned to a coach to kind of hang and help us out the rest of the year. And he was so valuable. And he used to always tell me to kick it 10%. And as we were going out there, he grabbed me and turned me around and he looked at me and he said, Timo, 1%, because he knew I was gassed up. And so I went out there, teed the ball up, and took my steps. And I just said a little prayer, and I said, Frank, I hope you're watching here. And I hit it, and I kind of blacked out. And it was the longest scrum ever. And fortunate that we got it. And obviously it helped us win the game. So it was a pretty cool experience.
I can't even imagine the elation after recovering it, because that's a long halftime to be sitting and waiting for the kick and then to actually hit it.
Yeah, it was a cool experience. And yeah, I mean, when we got it, it was such a sigh of relief, because I mean, it was not as clean as we'd hoped it would be. And thank God we recovered it. And it was, we went down and scored, took our first lead of the game. And even though they came back and scored again the next drive, it was kind of like after we did that, we almost had this team of destiny feeling, like we just knew we were going to win. And it was the coolest, magical thing to be a part of.
Well, let's hope the Jets can give you a second Super Bowl ring this year. Obviously, the vibe's been pretty immaculate thus far throughout OTAs. Obviously, you were with the team for a little bit in 2021. I'd imagine the feeling in that facility is a lot different these days. I guess, what have been your first impressions now that you've had a little bit with the team? You've been in Coach Saleh's meetings, you've been in Brant Boyer's meetings, you kind of gotten a chance to meet some of the new guys that weren't there when you were there initially. I guess, from the outside looking in, it seems like the vibes are that this is a confident team that's ready to come compete. But what have been your impressions since arriving?
That's exactly how I'd put it, the way you just said it. A team that's confident and ready to compete. And I think we have a good attitude right now. I don't think anybody thinks we've made it or arrived, or that, we're guaranteed to make it to the Super Bowl or guaranteed to make it to a championship game or even to the playoffs. You look at the AFC. I mean, this conference is loaded. So, we're just working right now. Guys are trying to get to know each other. Trying to build that team chemistry. We have such a long way to go. It's like there's not even a light at the end of the tunnel right now, right? It's like, let's just enjoy our summer break. Guys stay in shape. And you come back, you get training camp, and you're not even thinking about the first game of the season yet, right? It's just about stacking bricks every day and everybody getting better. And that's what the whole season is. It's just process oriented, getting better every day. That's all it has to be about. And if we have a bunch of guys that are doing that, then I bet you we'll have some pretty good results to show at the end.
Yeah, and you played under Coach Saleh in 2021, but as Ben said, and as you described, it's a different feeling around the team this year. So what has been Coach Saleh's message to the team so far this year? And, how does that sort of compare to what he was building when you were here at the beginning of Saleh's tenure a couple of years ago?
Well, I would say, number one, you're dealing with an experienced head coach now, right? He was in his first year 2 years ago. And I don't think people think about this with players, but they don't always think about coaches as, rookies are rookies for a reason, right? They're new to the league and they have a lot to learn, a lot of experience to gain. And I think Coach Saleh was a rookie 2 years ago, and I'm sure he's learned a bunch about, not that his values and philosophies have changed, but I'm sure he has morphed as a coach and continued to grow and evolve. So, I think that's one thing. As far as the team goes, it is a different team. A lot of guys that were here before, but there's a lot of new guys as well. And I think the time is now is the best way I could put that as far as the messaging. The time's now. I think everybody can feel that, and the organization. I mean, if you go just look at their actions that they've taken this year, it's the time is now. So we're all excited about it.
And there's another thing I'm curious to ask you about in terms of, Coach Saleh and some of his messages. If you watch some of the, I'm not sure if you watched, but I know most Jets fans have the Flight 2023 documentary that they put out. It has all this great footage of you guys this offseason, all the work that's been put in. And I've seen Coach Saleh's had you guys in the meeting room doing some PowerPoints, like kind of communicating his message and stuff like that. So what are your thoughts on some of his just like his coaching style, doing those PowerPoints and those presentations, things like that. How do those things sort of help the message resonate with the team?
Um, yeah, I don't know exactly how to answer that. I guess I would just say that he's very thoughtful, and it seems to me that he's very thoughtful, and we're not just doing things just to do them. I think there's every word that's put up there, there's a reason for it. Every drill we do, there's a reason for it. There's a validation of you're validating why, so guys understand why we're doing things, and I think players, the old days of do what I say because I say and don't ask why. I think you can't be successful if you're doing things that way. Guys want to know why. Players are, so well prepared. The game is so complex now that, you got a lot of smart guys in there. And they want to know why we're doing what we're doing. They need to know, if you don't understand why you're doing what you're doing, you can't make adjustments when shit hits the fan in a game, right? If a guy misses their gap, how does this guy pick up for him? So I think when everybody understands the why to what we're doing, there's just a different level of buy-in, and that's the best way to answer that.
Yeah, I guess, because we were talking about it beforehand, we were writing these questions. I guess the larger point we were kind of making is we noticed in all the footage, you can see stuff written on the walls about, I think it was negativity fills the void when communication lacks or something like that. And then there's been a lot of stuff about finishing, because the Jets obviously had a tough end to last year and didn't finish some games maybe the way they would have wanted to. And so it seems like Saleh is very big on these. He has these, I guess, sayings, and we did 60% is another one. He has this style of coaching that has a heavy emphasis on communication. Do you feel like that's, something that's resonating with the players, or sometimes, we couldn't tell. We feel like it would probably resonate with players, but we're curious to see from your perspective how that actually resonates.
Yeah, just as an example of what you guys are talking about, watching our defense practice and the way they communicate as motions are happening and things are changing in the formation is amazing to watch. It's really, really cool. And you can't fake that. That means you're into it. You're attentive. You're locked in. You're focused. And so that's one example of just seeing that high level of communication. And everybody's bought in, I think, on that. So it's exciting to see.
What's the typical structure of an OTA practice? Can you just take us through like your day, especially as a punter? I can't imagine you're a veteran punter. You know how to punt the football. You don't want to burn your leg out. From the start of the day through the end of the day, what does your day look like when you're in Jersey for a practice?
Show up. If you're an injured guy or got something you're getting treatment for, you're up a little earlier than everybody else. But get in, get breakfast. Typically, it's kind of an 8 to 2 type of time frame. I think we've got 6 hours.
Do you like the breakfast? Is the food of the facility adequate?
I would say the food is definitely a positive at the facility.
Okay,
for sure. I know. I'm sure you guys saw those team rankings of all the different things. So I think the Jets, as far as their facility goes, food, all that stuff, definitely a plus. So,
what's your go-to breakfast on a practice day?
Typically I'll do 5 eggs with onions, peppers, mushrooms, and bison.
Okay.
All just scrambled up together, avocado, a little bit of fruit, maybe a yogurt. And then probably a few hours later after meetings, I'll do some granola, and then start taking all my supplements leading up to practice. I like to have a little bit of caffeine so I'm not a coffee drinker, but I like to have a little caffeine for practice. And basically I'm kind of grazing, whether it's practice or a game, not after I've had a big meal way before practice, whether it's breakfast or lunch or even dinner for a night game. I'd really like to, just kind of graze the rest of the day on a little light protein, granola, some honey, and just keep a little drip of caffeine going, just for a little bit of elevated, attentiveness, I guess.
And then, okay, so then you're done with breakfast, and what does the rest of the day look like? You go straight into meetings, or do you have a practice first?
Yeah, well, we've got meetings in OTAs anyways. We have meetings positionally, and then we'll have a special teams meeting, then we'll have a team meeting, and then after that team meeting, I think guys typically will have their own kind of going over what's going to happen in practice, which we've already done as specialists in our special teams meeting. So we're on a little different path, and then we will, just get ready for practice. Go out. Depends on if I'm kicking at the beginning, middle, or end. Kind of changes what time I'll get going. And then after that, we'll have a lift, and that's about it for OTAs. It's pretty simple. Training camp's a little different just because it's longer. It's my boy Maxwell saying, "What's up?"
What's up?
So yeah, all good. Training camps, I wouldn't say it's a ton different other than obviously there's pads, but as far as structure goes, I mean, it's obviously a more challenging time for everybody, just because of physical contact and being in pads, and the practices are longer, all those types of things. But as far as the structure goes, it's relatively similar.
What are those special teams meetings like? I mean, what are some of the things that you might primarily focus on in those?
Yeah, special teams meeting is probably a little different than individual position meetings because you're dealing with all of the guys that are on a core unit, right? So let's say it's punt. You're dealing with a punter, a long snapper, a bunch of interior core guys. You've got gunners out on the edges. So sometimes we're all in there as a group. Every now and then they'll split up between Brant Boyer and Michael Gabriel, and kind of say, okay, the interior guys are here, the gunners are over here. And to be a little more efficient with like what film's actually being watched. I'd equate it to kind of like the difference between being on a smaller class size of 5 kids getting taught by a teacher as opposed to having 30 kids in the class, right? You can't be nearly as efficient with 30 guys in the class. So, they're thoughtful about that. And I'd say 80% of the rule book in the NFL is in the kicking game. So many unique rules. So much of the kicking game is just about educating guys on situations and understanding the rules so that they can make good decisions during games. And it's such a complex rule book that I learn stuff sometimes. I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know that, right? So you're always kind of re-educating. There's always a bunch of young guys that you're having to lean on during the season. So you're always relearning. There's a lot of rules that are different in pros than there are in college. So you can't take any of those things for granted. You got to go from scratch every year.
And speaking of those young guys, is there anyone on the special teams unit who has stood out to you so far? I mean, obviously Justin Hardy's still here; he's amazing. But specifically looking at some of the newer players, maybe some of the younger players, anyone in particular?
I've met a few of the young guys. This first round draft pick from Iowa State is really an interesting kid. And I think just watching, it'd be very easy for a kid that's a first round pick to like say, I'm not here to play special teams. They drafted me in the first round because they see me being a defensive guy. I'm sure he believes that, but I've been impressed with his level of improvement just on learning, especially in the punt game. That's where I'm, selfishly a little bit more focused. Just watching him, it's important to him. And that's exciting to see because that's a form of leadership. And although he's a rookie, I think he's got a chance to really step up and be a leader for us in special teams this year. And I've told him that, and I'm excited about him. And I think when you have guys like that, that could very easily be like, no, I'm not here for that. That have the opposite attitude. That are like, hey, coach has me in here because this is my role right this second, and I need to be able to be counted on and depended on. I think that's super important. And so he's a guy that's impressed. But at the end of the day, nobody has pads on. So, right now it's about learning and, learning fundamentals, learning, assignments. But there's always guys that flash in training camp that you didn't even see at all in OTAs because they get pads on, and you see guys that strike and that they just it's a physical game, and having jerseys on with a helmet isn't very it's not something that always transfers over. You got to wait till the pads get on.
I think that's probably the case for most players, but the one player that you can probably take some impressions away from is the QB, number 8, Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, you two, some of the longest tenured players in the NFL, both in New York. I don't know how many interactions you've had with Aaron over the years or even since being in New York, but what have been your impressions just from what you've been able to see at practice and what he's bringing to this team?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't need to become teammates with him to understand what he brings. We played them last year on Christmas Day, and I think he was healthy at that point, and he made 5 or 6 throws in that game. I was like, you can't defend that. That's just there's no defense to beat that throw. And so, when you have a guy that can do stuff like that, it just changes everything. So, it's been cool to get to know him a little bit. I think, old guys tend to migrate towards each other in the locker room, for some reason. So we definitely had a few conversations. I've been very impressed with him in the weight room specifically. I didn't realize how strong he is. And he really takes care of his body. So that's something that I've always taken pride in. So it's been cool seeing a guy that, typically at a position like that, you don't see all the time. So very impressed with that. Just the level of energy that everybody has related to him being our quarterback. It's just exciting.
All right. So you said you're impressed with him in the weight room. Who can squat more, you or A-Rod?
I don't know the answer to that. I can tell you this. I have squatted more than him in the weight room, but I don't know if he's maxing out or what he's doing. Maybe he's just doing warm-up sets and he's just that strong that I don't really know what that peak is, but yeah, so far I would say, he gave me a hard time. He said I need to have 2 belts for what I was squatting the other day. So he's kind of giving me some shit for that, but it's cool. It's, when you get older, that weight room becomes more and more important. And you look around the guys that play a long, long time in this league. I don't care what position they are. They live in that weight room. So, I took that as a compliment.
Yeah, and Brady was always talking about what was it, plyometrics or not plyometrics? It was pliability, and I kind of read a little bit of what he was talking about. What do you think the key is to longevity in the NFL? It just you say it's in the weight room, but is it more reps or is it more going for max? Or what's kind of the key to longevity?
I honestly don't know how to blanketly answer that. All I know is that nobody knows my body as well as I do. Just like nobody knows Aaron's body better than he does, and same with Tom. And I think, a big part of being a professional and just being successful in life is being honest with yourself. And a lot of times people shy away from things that are hard or difficult because they're hard and difficult. And who wants to do that? That's uncomfortable. So I find that, constantly, trying new things, getting yourself into discomfort. The wind is blowing. You could go the easy way in practice and look really good for the scouts and the people that are, charting your session, or you could go the hard way. And I, as a general rule, try to always do the more difficult thing. So that's really boded well for me. And, as far as my training goes, I think consistency is key. I would say that's the number one thing, is just being consistent, which I mean is like, not just, I work out this many days a week. It's nutrition. It's how you eat, how you hydrate, your sleep. Everything matters all the time. And I think the easiest way to kind of encapsulate that is more of like a, if you could go out when you were 22 and have a bender of a night, drink your ass off and kind of sleep it off and be fine the next evening, that margin for getting at a deficit is less and less as you get older. So, banking sleep, doing more than you need today, because, in 3 days, you've got a road trip night game where you're going to get back at 7 in the morning on Monday, and you've got another game the next week. If you're not thinking ahead and planning all those things out, you're just constantly trying to just maximize everything. And if you feel good on Sunday as an older player, you typically play pretty well. And so, That was a very long-winded answer to your
No,
question.
yeah, I mean, I imagine younger Thomas Morstead down in New Orleans may have had a few of those benders, especially after the Super Bowl. But I
Yeah, there
imagine
was a lot of questionable decisions made that first year, but that's life, and definitely, you live and learn, and you continue to get better. And I think as long as you're in a growth mindset, you got a chance to keep going.
All right, a couple more for you. I did want to ask you about the new special teams rules. I know a lot of special teams coaches were against the new fair catch on kickoffs. How do you feel about it? Is this something that you were
Trash.
pretty terrible? Can you explain why?
Yeah, I just don't understand. I understand. Look, there's a higher injury risk on special teams. That's just a fact. And I understand trying to make the plays safer, but by making the plays worse, I don't think making a play worse is good for the game.
What do you
So if
think
you
of
want to
the
get,
XFL, the way that they were doing it? You think that is a good
I
solution?
thought it was really interesting. I think they had very few injuries on it, and a lot less high speed collisions. So yeah, I definitely think it's interesting, and I think it should be looked at. I know the NFL doesn't want to be seen as copying some substandard league in their eyes, but you know, uh, you know, if you think something's better and the data shows that it's better and it accomplishes that, you can still have an exciting play with exciting returns. You know, I'm not opposed to stealing any sort of good idea from somebody to implement it in my own life. So, yeah, I just think it's kind of trash because I think it makes the game worse. And I think they should always be, if they make changes, it should be in making the game more watchable, more exciting. So,
And this is a question that might seem a little trivial, but it's a
Oh
topic
boy.
that
Oh
Ben and
no.
I love to discuss. So we ask every player we interview a question along these lines, but what is your favorite color of the Jets uniform? We have the green, we have the white, we have the black. Did you wear black when
No.
during your tenure here last time? I don't know if they wore it in any of the games you played,
yeah,
but which one is your
I've got
favorite?
I've got one I've got one here. So we must have either we wore one or we were getting ready to wear one before I got released, and I was able to keep it. But yeah, I like the old school stuff. I like the green. Um,
You got Ed Sheeran wearing a jersey at the concert.
Yeah, yeah.
I was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I definitely like the green. The everybody can wear white and everybody has the black piece to the, most teams have a black piece to their jerseys, but that jet green's kind of like original to the Jets. So I'm all about that.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we can get some more of it this year because last year I think it was only one game where we wore it. But also the schedule came out since the last time we talked to you. And in week 2, you guys are going to Dallas. And I've always wondered, I know Ben, you've wondered, what is that Jumbotron like? How much of an effect does that have on you while you're kicking? Because it seems pretty low. Like you could hit it if you wanted to. So how cognizant are you of the Jumbotron in Dallas?
I mean, everybody that goes there that's a putter. I mean, it's like you got to scratch the itch. You got to hit that sucker in pregame and make sure you're still able to do that. But I think you definitely have to go out of your way to hit it. It's right down the middle of the field, which I'm never trying to do. So, I think you definitely have to go out of your way to hit it.
All right, last question. You mentioned Dallas. Michael and I were curious. I was like, how many is Thomas ever had a fake punt? And you had one in Dallas. Didn't go too well, apparently. But how confident?
It was not a good decision. No.
What happened on that play? And how confident are you if your number's called this season to throw a dime? Do we feel like we can do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just more about, do you guys want Aaron Rodgers throwing a fourth down throw or me? That's the real question. Yeah, look, it was the same thing there. It was Sunday Night Football. We were getting our butts kicked in Dallas. I think this was in 2014, maybe. And we had this play that we'd had in from the previous season, and we kept working on it. And the only negative to it, and I will say this, I mean, it's enough times passed where I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but the question was, hey, do we have a check out of this in case we get a certain look? And the answer is always no. We're not gonna play with scared money. And I thought, man, there's certain looks against us would not be good. And we were down 14 points with like 7.5 minutes to go in the game. So it's like prime, like, the other team's going to be in a safe look, just waiting for the fake. All they care is that you punt the ball. They don't care if you punt it 90 yards. Like, they just want to get the ball back and waste the time. And we went out there and they called it. And I remember running out there thinking this is not going to go good. So we ran the play. I did make a guy miss, which I was very proud of. But then I got sacked. I didn't throw it. I think if there would have been 2 or 3 minutes left in the game, I probably would have just thrown a prayer up. But they had 5 guys in coverage against our 2 eligibles. It was a bad deal. And so I probably would have thrown it if we had less time, but it was still 7 minutes and we were nursing a 2 score. We're still 2 scores down. So I just felt like, if it's not there, you just take the play. Hopefully we force them to punt back and then we'll still have a chance to win the game. So I didn't end up throwing it. So I think even though I didn't throw it, it goes on my QBR because it was a sack.
Yeah.
So that wasn't good for the old numbers. But it'll be even greater whenever we do at some point run a fake because I've never done one. And so we'll see.
We'll be looking for it.
They did go
More
2 for 2 last year, right?
Yeah.
What's that?
Punt fakes. The Jets went 2 for 2. Braden threw one against Cleveland, and
Yep, I
Ashton
remember that
Davis ran one against Buffalo, I believe.
Yeah, the one in Cleveland was really, really cool because special teams were really helped win that game for New York last year because they had the onside kick they got back, and it was
only one I've ever seen since the Jets have had since the new rules with the onside kicks. By the way,
yeah, they're hard to get when they're coming. So
yeah, well, maybe we'll see another surprise one and a fake punt, Thomas. That'd be pretty cool.
I'm up for anything.
Thomas, thank you so much for coming on. I want to give you a quick chance to shout out your Twitter. Where can our listeners come and find you? You're posting kind of a lot now, so
yeah. Well, look, if you can figure out how to spell my name correctly, you can find it. That's all it is. It's Thomas Morstead. So I'll let the fans try to figure it out. It's not spelled how you think. So
it's Morstead. So
simple as that. That's
simple as that. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us, we went a little long, but thank you. Really appreciate that. Best of luck to you this season. We know that if the Jets need a big time play from you, either a surprise onside kick or a fake, we're pretty confident we got the right guy to do it. So enjoy your time off and good luck at training camp.
All right. I'm going to go play with my boys here. He's ready for me.
Have fun.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that was Thomas Morstead, punter for the New York Jets. Always great talking to him. We'll see if we have him on again during the season. There was some questions we didn't get to, Michael, but I think we got the bulk. But you had to ask him the uniform one.
Our best questions we got to.
You pulled the wool over me on that one. I thought you were gonna ask the helmet one, and then you asked the uniform. I was like,
I had to go to the uniforms.
I was like,
we were going to ask him about what goes into choosing why you wear the bulbous helmet, as you call it,
and the sleeve jerseys. Instead, it's like
jerseys.
What's your favorite color? You can follow us at CYJ Pod on Twitter, Michael _Nania, myself, Ben W. Blessington. Go to jetsxfactor.com, best place to go for Jets content. Rate, review, subscribe on iTunes, subscribe to the Jets X Factor YouTube. I think that's it. Thank you everybody for listening. We'll have a few more interviews coming out this week, so be on the lookout for that. We also just released a podcast yesterday, given our offensive stat predictions. We'll have another one coming out in the defense next week. So be on the lookout. We're manufacturing content here, but big thank you to Thomas Morstead giving us some of his time. So everybody have a great week. Go Jets.